So you're a great welder. You've got the skills, you know your stuff. But how do you actually prove it to an employer? Today, we're diving into what is, without a doubt, the most important tool in a welder's career, the certification. And trust me, this is way more than just a piece of paper. It's your golden ticket.
And that's a really important question, right? In a field where every single millimeter counts, how do you show the world you're the real deal? How do you separate the true professionals from the hobbyists? Well, the answer is a standardized system of proof, certifications.
And listen, this is about so much more than just looking good on paper. The stakes are unbelievably high. A single bad weld on a bridge, a pipeline, or a critical piece of machinery, it can lead to absolute disaster. We're talking catastrophic failures that can cost millions, and even worse, they can cost lives. There is zero room for error.
And that is exactly why these certifications are your golden ticket. They're proof that you are committed to safety, first and foremost. They give you instant credibility, showing employers you've been tested and you've passed. And they are the key to unlocking serious career growth.
All right, so where do we start? Let's kick things off right here in the US with the undisputed heavyweight champ, the American Welding Society, or AWS. If you're welding in America, this is the definitive badge of honor.
So just how big is AWS in the States? Well, look at this. A whopping 70% of all certified welders here hold an AWS certification. That's not just a popular choice. In many parts of the industry, it's the baseline expectation.
And the cool thing is, AWS isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. The Certified Welder, the CW, that's your fundamental hands-on cert. But from there, you can branch out. You could become a Certified Welding Inspector, a CWI, focusing on quality control, or a Certified Welding Educator, a CWE, to train up the next generation. There are even specialized certs for really cool fields like aerospace and robotics. Okay, so how do you get one? It's pretty straightforward. First, you need some real-world experience under your belt, usually about 1 to 2 years. Then, you've got to pass the exams, and that means both a written test and a practical test, where your actual welds get put under some serious scrutiny. And finally, to make sure your skills stay sharp, you renew it every 3 years. So you do all that work. Is it worth it? Oh, yeah, big time. Just look at the earning potential. AWS certified welders, on average, pull in 20 to 30% more than welders who aren't certified. That is a massive, game-changing boost to your paycheck. But let's put a real face and a real number to this. This is John. He's a welder down in Texas. Before his cert, he was making around $35,000 a year. After he got AWS certified, his salary jumped to $55,000. That's not just some abstract percentage. That's life-changing money. And in John's own words, it was his ticket to a stable career. He's not alone either. Something like 85% of AWS certified welders say they had better job opportunities within just 1 year of getting that piece of paper. Okay, so AWS is the standard for most jobs, but what if you want to get into the really demanding, high-stakes environments? Well, for that, you need the master key for those elite industries, and that's where the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, or ASME, comes in. Now, everything ASME does is built around one critical document, the Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code, the BPVC. You can think of this as the absolute Bible for anything that operates under intense pressure, laying out the rules for everything from design to the final inspection. This makes an ASME certification non-negotiable in sectors like oil and gas, nuclear energy, and power generation. In these fields, failure is simply not an option, and companies absolutely rely on the ASME stamp of approval to know a welder is up to the task. Getting ASME certified is a whole other level of tough. It's not just about how well you can weld. It's about how well you can follow an exact recipe called a Welding Procedure Specification, or WPS. You follow that recipe to the letter, your work gets tested, sometimes literally destroyed to find its limits, and every single step is documented and signed off by an authorized inspector. All right, we've covered the US standard and the high-pressure specialty work, but what if you have bigger ambitions? What if you want your skills to take you anywhere on the planet? For that, you're going to need a different kind of ticket, a global passport from the International Organization for Standardization, or ISO. The real power of ISO is its incredible reach. We're talking about standards that are recognized and respected in over 160 countries.
An ISO cert is like a universal language for welding. It means your skills are understood and trusted, whether you're in Dubai, Germany, or Japan. For the welders on the tools, the big one you need to know is ISO 96061. That's the global benchmark for your hands-on skills. But just like the others, ISO also has a path for moving up, with certs like ISO 14731 for the welding supervisors who are in charge of quality for an entire project. Okay, we've thrown a lot at you. You've got AWS for the US, ASME for the high-pressure stuff, and ISO for global work. So the million-dollar question is, how in the world do you choose the right path for your career goals? Let's boil it down to the basics. If you're planning to build your career mainly in construction or manufacturing here in North America, AWS is almost always your best bet. But if you have that dream of working overseas, welding in Europe or Asia, then ISO is your passport to making that happen. Okay, let's really get into the nitty-gritty here. For industry focus, AWS is your generalist, ASME is for those very specific pressure vessel and piping jobs, and ISO is all about meeting a global standard. Geographically, AWS is mainly a US game, while ASME and ISO have that worldwide recognition. Now look at the cost. ASME is typically the most expensive, and that reflects how specialized it is. Finally, renewal is key. AWS and ISO have fixed terms, but your ASME certification is often tied directly to your employer and the specific procedures you're qualified to perform. But here's a little insider secret for you. You don't actually have to pick just one. In fact, the most versatile and highest paid welders often stack their certifications. Having both an AWS and an ASME cert, for example, makes you incredibly valuable. And the data backs it up. Welders with multiple certs earn about 15% more than those with just a single one. So, let's bring it all home and take one last look at how you can use all this to seriously supercharge your welding career. It all comes back to these 3 golden tickets. Think of it like this. AWS opens all the doors for you across the United States. ASME is the key that unlocks those elite, high-paying jobs in the most demanding industries. And ISO? That's your ticket to freedom, ensuring you can find great work almost anywhere in the world. Each one of these is a powerful tool that can help you build a more successful, a more stable, and a more lucrative career. The paths are all laid out in front of you. The only question left is, which ticket are you going to choose?